give a little bit of background here too with like
Yeah.
fructose. The fructose is basically any sugar that comes from fruit, right? Fructose fruit. The problem is it's not that fruit's bad for you. I'm not saying that at all. I mean, I wouldn't take in too much fruit over throughout the day, but as long as you don't overdo it, you'll be fine. But the problem is, I forgot, maybe like back in the 60s or 70s, I could be off by a decade or two. We started taking fructose and turning the high fructose corn syrup.
Yes, yes,
And this
yes.
is very sweet. And the reason they did it is because it's very inexpensive. The
And
problem is
preserve it.
about
Preserves the food.
60% of packaged foods. And this causes a huge increase of the spike in your fructose, which will cause a huge increase in spike in your uric acid levels.
Yes, buddy. Brian, what's happening, man?
What's happening, man? Everything is good. Everything is good on this beautiful Saturday afternoon.
Bruh.
Sun is out. Look, it's actually like mid 50s today. I can't complain about that. January in New Jersey, I'll take it.
Brother, I was walking around I usually, in the wintertime, I'm usually got like 3 layers on. Today, I only had freaking two.
All right.
That's a good day. That's a good day in the wintertime. I got 2 layers. Bing, bing. Good. Zip, zip. I'm ready to rock, man. It's nice. A little windy out there, blowing my freaking trash can all over the place, but nothing I can't handle. You know what I mean, B?
There it is. First world
Nothing I
problems.
can't handle. What's up, everybody? Welcome to It's More Than Black or White Health Podcast. We're your hosts, Brian and Paul, bringing you the goody goods. And today, Brian, well, before you've heard us before, welcome back. Thank you for subscribing. We appreciate you. For this your first time here, welcome. Buckle up your seats, buckle up your chin straps, grab yourself a pad and a pen. I think we're gonna put that in our disclaimer from now on, right? Because we have so much just going through the editing and these conversations. There's so much that's provided in here that even as I'm going through, I have a notepad that's with me when I'm doing my editing so I can freaking take notes. All right. So I encourage you to do the same. And today, okay, we have a topic that you may never think about unless you got gout. All right. And listen, I would put a B, we could do a game, but like if we're not doing live, it doesn't make much sense.
Mhm.
So it's a 2-word thing we're going to talk about today. And today the topic is, Brian, you want to clue them in on this piece?
Uric acid. Uric acid.
Woo!
The number on your blood test that nobody knows what it's about. Everyone knows there's a direct correlation with gout, but as we're going to discuss, it goes a lot further than just gout.
And AB, this is par for the course because, listen, this is more than black or white. Anything that we talk about here is more than name alone. Okay. And people, I'm telling you, you'll find, especially if you watch this for a while, you'll hear topics in this podcast that Brian and I have spoken about, have chopped up in the past. Okay. Is it a coincidence? Absolutely freaking not, because the body's connected. That's one of the beautiful things we're going to relay across here. All right. So let's talk about uric acid. What, Paul? Yeah, uric acid, people. I'm going to give a B. I'm going to give it just like a baseline, and then I'd like for us to dive into this a little bit deeper,
Go
right?
for it,
Which
man.
we always do, right?
That's it.
Uric acid. And also, by the way, we're far from being doctors and we fail to play one on TV. Right here, what we're doing here, this is based on the research that we are doing, what we are learning, and then we're taking this information, bloop, 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 integrating it for ourselves, and then splat out. We're putting it out here for you because it helps us to integrate this and it helps us to help you. So, uric acid is a chemical created when the body breaks down substances called purines. What the heck is that, Paul? I'm glad you asked. Purines are normally produced in the body and are also found in some foods and drinks. Foods in high content of purines include liver or anchovies. Do you eat anchovies on your pizza?
No,
Me
I can't
neither.
do the anchovies. I
Yeah, me
can't do
neither, man. Me neither. Those salty things. Mackerel, dry beans, peas, and beer. I'm a beer drinker, so I'm paying
it.
attention. Any beer drinkers out there, please pay attention. B, listen, man. So okay, that's a very broad, like Google-ish thing. of what uric acid is. Like, if somebody's coming and be like, B, what's the importance of uric acid? How would you answer that, man?
I look at it as it's a key cause in any kind of metabolic syndrome, such as weight
Mm,
gain, diabetes, heart disease, dementia. And I got a lot of this information from a doctor called Dr. Perlmutter. He wrote a book on it's called Dropping Acid,
great
which
name, by the
basically,
way.
yeah, it's a great book. I have the book, which basically, again, talks about how uric acid is a key function of metabolic disease. And by controlling uric acid, you can help get somebody to optimal health. So most of the time when people go to the doctors and they get their levels checked, it's only when someone has gout. And if you don't know what gout is, basically like, it's so painful for your foot. It's like excruciating. And that's what basically happens when you have too much uric acid that builds up in you. So what most doctors are taught in medical school, and he says this himself, is that if a patient has high levels of uric acid or gout, give them a drug called allopurinol and have them kind of go on, move on, in a couple of days, it kind of cures up a little bit. But that's only when your levels, so like when you look at like blood tests for gout, it's usually like a 7 or a higher, somebody has gout. And the doctors, if you're below that, they'll just say, all right, your gout level, your uric acid levels are in the normal range. Don't worry about it. But a problem is a lot of these metabolic diseases, they start happening when your levels are about, 5.5 or more. And the
Right.
reality is about 88% of people in our country have some sort of metabolic disease, but no one looks at uric acid. But over the last like 20 years or so, uric acid actually it's gaining more recognition, not
Mm,
only for like being there when people are overweight or have cardiovascular issues, diabetes, hypertension, or other metabolic syndromes, but doctors are now saying that it just doesn't happen to be there. It's actually playing a causative role in your health and is leading to these problems. We're in a world where high sugar and insulin sensitivity is through the roof. I mean, half the US population is either diabetic or pre-diabetic.
mm,
So that's basically the foundation of where uric acid, how the medical system looks at uric acid, and how it's
mm.
slowly starting to come around and realizing that uric acid is just not a gout issue. It's causing all these other issues within the body.
Thanks, B. I want to highlight several things in what I was hearing you saying. So starting off with the gout, right? Especially the gout levels. I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people will be more familiar with gout than the uric acid itself because it's like you said, like, oh, you got the gout. How the hell did you get that? Well, there's a buildup of uric acid. So basically, that uric acid, it's like a crystallization in your bloodstream. I know my brothers had it. My mom had it. I remember my mom was alive and she first got it. She was like, she couldn't even stand. She was like, it's like a million pins and needles like sticking her in her feet. So it's like it was painful to even watch her and be around her. So it was like having going to get her cherry juice and all these things. It was like to help her out. And it's extremely painful thing, especially for people that are either diabetic, that have high blood pressure, high blood sugar levels, like you mentioned, Brian. So I want to touch on the part where you measured the measurement is a 7 for the gout, right? You also mentioned that the metabolic syndrome exercise, not exercises, blah blah. The metabolic syndrome disorders or diseases that kicks in around that 5.5. So right now, if you look at this 5.5 to 7, that's a point and a half, okay, difference. That's a very small, actually, I'm sorry, 2.5. No, wait, no, I had it right,
Five
7,
5.5, yeah.
4.5. It's a very small window. So what I want to touch on is in that when the metabolic syndromes begin and the gout comes on, that's such a small level that we're classifying as normal. Okay.
Mhm.
Where it's such I see this as such a potent swing in it's almost as if we need to be under 5.5 for us to be normal because this point spread that you're talking about right here, it's still a disease territory for the metabolic syndrome disorders. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm curious with this. And maybe you don't know this. Maybe it's something we could just do a quick research on. who determines what the levels of this year, like the levels of uric acid and what's normal and what's not? Where was that established? Is that like a what
I don't
where
know exactly where it was established, but anybody that has any kind of gout, and that's again, people just doctors in the medical community just correlate gout with uric acid. So
Mhm.
most of the pain starts. I mean, nobody goes to the doctor until they're in pain, right? So
Yeah, yeah, true
especially for
word.
gout,
Yeah,
nobody wakes up and be like, yeah, I think my uric acid levels are. Let me go to the doctor. No, people wake up and they're like, my effing foot is in pain. Let me
right.
go to the doctor and figure out what's going on. They take blood and they see a direct correlation with pain or gout with being at a 7 or a higher.
Hmm.
So that's where they get it from. Anything under a 7, you don't really consider to have gout.
See, yeah, so this is and thank you for that because you just helped me understand um my what I'm really asking. It's like so my thing with this high uric acid, we want to have low uric acid levels because it's like once we get to that 5.5, it's like we can really go easily go past the 7.
Sure.
Like so my thing is that with this uric acid piece, I think people it's key for us to pay why this is important is this is a marker for what could be happening in our body and other things. So if they're like, oh, I have blood sugar issues or I have high blood pressure, please pay attention to what we're talking about here. Because even though you may not have gout now, if you're failing to pay attention to high uric acid levels, that's something that is damn sure near going to be in your future. Because chances are you're not even paying attention to things that in your body that could lower this.
Yeah, and
So
they say about an average American, they say 88% of people have some kind of metabolic issue, metabolic
mhm.
issue. Okay, which we talked about before.
Yep.
Our
Yeah.
average is probably around 6 on a uric acid level. Most cardiovascular issues begin at 5.5.
That
So when I look at blood tests, I mean, I read, I don't not too much anymore these days, but I probably looked at over 2,000 different blood tests from people that used to come to me and they would give me their blood test, and I would see their uric acid levels to be like 6.36 or whatever like that, and I'm like, oh, what did your doctor say about that? Like, oh, he didn't even mention that. I'm like, because you don't have gout, that's why he didn't mention it. But I would look at a 6.3. I'm like, dude, you're
you're right
or
there, bro.
like you have cardiovascular issues that are being created right now. You have some kind of metabolic syndrome. And of course, these people would be like overweight, which we'll kind of talk about why they're overweight. Your uric acid levels are high,
Hmm.
but they're not. It just gets shoved to the side until the symptom starts coming. And usually by the time the symptom starts coming, it's almost like too late. We've talked about this before. You're like you're in trouble. Yeah,
Yep.
you can cure the
Yep.
gout, but the cardiovascular diseases will still be there. The
Yeah.
metabolic symptoms will still be there.
Yeah, dude. And I think I think that's why I keep coming back to that 5.5 number because it's gotta be way lower than that.
Yeah, you want to be around 3.5.
I was
We can
thinking
talk
that.
about
Okay.
there's like finger stick things, which I highly recommend. If you have like diabetes or anything like that, or any kind of metabolic syndrome,
Hmm.
you do like finger stick tests and you can get your uric acid levels checked.
Yeah.
The only thing I wouldn't do is don't do it after a workout or don't do it while you're fasting. But there's
Okay.
finger stick tests you can do out there on a regular basis to control your uric acid levels or at least see where they're at.
So yeah, so man, and this guy, because I was reading up and watching this guy, Dr. Perlmutter, as well. I dig that dude, man. If
Yeah.
people like go check out his material, I like how he explains things. It's very simple, very easy. Yeah, what was I going with that? Yeah, oh, he was talking about the markers and how with the uric acid, like you want to look at when these are markers because like it's our body's way of it's a way of seeing what's going on with the body. And one of the things I really appreciated about what he was saying is he gave a brief history
Hmm.
of like the primal function of uric acid. And I thought
Yeah.
that that was fascinating because he was like uric acid is basically like it's for lack of a better term, it's a way of prepping the body for a winter. So like it would spike your blood sugar level, your high blood pressure, because it's basically it's a way of conserving fats, if I recall what he was saying, to have us prepared for winters when the food
Yeah.
may be a little bit more scarce. Do you remember hearing that from him? Like when you were
Yeah,
talking?
so basically, like he got it out of a National Geographic article. Actually, I read the same thing, and basically, what he was saying is our primate ancestors, about 15 millions of years ago, they faced a time of food scarcity when it
Yeah.
was the Earth was going through this like phase. It was such called the Middle Miocene period, and
Hmm.
during this time, Earth became cooler, and various tropical foods like figs and berries they were less abundant. But there was a small group of our ancestors that had this like superpower, as he said. And this superpower was they were able to store and make more body fat. They're able to raise their blood sugar levels so they can power their brains so they can, they can think quickly. They can also raise their blood pressure. Why is blood pressure essential for survival when scarcity? Because it actually you retain more water, so your body becomes more, I guess, hydrated for that short period of time.
Hmm.
You don't have any kind of dehydration issues. And in order to do this, you needed something called uric acid, right?
Hmm.
And what they developed over a million years ago was a defect in the enzyme called uricase. And
Hmm.
what uricase does is that it increases uric acid and magnifies the effects of fructose for fat accumulation. So
Hmm.
without uricase, which is a genetic selection again, that gave them that superpower to add fat for survival, they would die off quicker than somebody with uricase at that time. And for the record, they didn't become like fat or obese and or anything like that. They just became a little bit heavier than the
Hmm.
ones that didn't have that uricase mutation,
Yeah.
and they survived and passed it on to future generations like you and I. So we inherited this as a survival mechanism by elevating uric acid, such as in the late summer, early fall, when fruits ripen, and as hunters and gatherers who found blueberries, it would be a signal for the body to get ready for food scarcity. Why?
Mm.
Because winter is coming. So the small amount of fructose, which is directly metabolized into uric acid, lights up our physiology, and a warning sign goes off to make the body store more fat, raise blood pressure, raise your blood sugar, become insulin resistant, and it's basically just an amazing survival mechanism.
Bruh, I'm fascinated by it, man. I'm
Yeah,
fascinated by it. And B, it's the same time, it's the same point. If you think about it, because it's a survival tactic, right? It's a survival mechanism. I mean, I'm judging here. I think that may be why it may or I'm thinking that may be the reason it gets less play, right?
yeah,
It's like the doctors may be like, oh man, oh, you're at 6? Man, you're good, bro.
you're good. You have no pain. You're good right now.
Yeah, you're good, right? Because it's like it's one. I mean, in all fairness, it's one less thing to think about, people. That's why we're talking to you about this, because you get to take control of your health here. You get to at least know, like, yo, doc, it's a 5.8. Hey man, I want to get that junk down. But you're normal. That's all right. I want to be more. I want to be exemplary.
Optimal. Yeah,
Optimal. Yeah, I want to be,
yeah.
that's the word. I want to be optimal, right?
Hmm.
Because like, and this is the beautiful thing about the body. It's a gift and a curse, right? Because it is a survival mechanism. And the body, because back then there were less stressors. The main stressor that would trigger was something that is actually a stressor. Listen, you'll get food, man. You don't have the extra winter coat. You're a goner, bro.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So
And
now,
just give a little bit of background here too, but like
yeah.
fructose. So fructose is basically any sugar that comes from fruit, right? Fructose fruit. The problem is it's not that fruit's bad for you. I'm not saying that at all. I mean, I wouldn't take in too much fruit over throughout the day, but as long as you don't overdo it, you'll be fine. But the problem is, I forgot, maybe like back in the 60s or 70s, I could be off by a decade or two. We started taking fructose and turning the high fructose corn syrup.
Yes, yes,
And this is
yes.
very sweet. And the reason they did it is because it was very inexpensive. But the
And
problem is it's
preserve it.
about
Preserves the food.
60% of packaged foods. And this caused a huge increase of a spike in your fructose, which will cause a huge increase in spike in your uric acid levels.
Dude,
So that's a,
listen,
that's a, that's a perfect example how, technology doesn't, you don't mess with food.
No, bro,
You know,
no. And well, you and I have spoken about this in several different episodes. I think at this point we're coming close to 30. So I think at least 10 episodes we've discussed the modern food and how what they're including with it and the impact that it has. So because when you say that, I'm looking at we're tricking our body and everything. Like, look, especially like I I'm one of those guys that like likes to look at the labels now. I'm like a label geek, not necessarily like, oh my God, it's got this. I just want to. I'm like being more aware of what the heck I'm putting in my body, and I'm one of those weirdos at Costco that I'm always like, oh shit! Damn,
yeah.
what? That's got high fructose, high corn fructose syrup. Like everything, the majority of things got high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah.
Again, as Brian mentioned, for the preservatives. But I'm saying this because you're better off getting your sugar from fruit, okay? And be aware of how much sugar you are putting into your body because a lot of these things, that's why we talk about like natural foods, like organic foods, bringing things into your life that are going to create a richer environment for your body to be healthier and like pay attention to every like what you're taking in. The most random, even like ketchup. Ketchup has got, I'm a ketchup junkie, man. I love fries. Ketchup is like got a lot. If you're not being aware, ketchup has got a high fructose corn syrup, man.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't get I always got to look at the labels too. I try to eat as
Got
much
to,
organic as you possibly can, so it doesn't have that in there.
brother. And
We
you
talked
just,
about this too with Gatorade. Back in the day, Gatorade had high
bro,
fructose corn syrup in there. You know, so yeah. But again, I just
bro.
want to like, kind of go back. Like fruit isn't bad. Like I
Right.
don't want people to stay away from like fructose. So I got this from Dr. Perlmutter too. He's like, there's a lot of benefits in fruit. So in moderation, for example, like in an apple, he mentions has about 5 grams of fructose, and it's mostly metabolized in the small intestine and won't make its way to the liver where most problems begin. Fruit has fiber, which slows down the release of fructose in the body. Fruits can contain what they call bioflavonoids, like quercetin, which you talked about that in the last couple of episodes, which
Hmm.
help also increase testosterone. Which quercetin actually targets something called xanthine oxidate. I'm sorry, which is an enzyme that creates uric acid.
Hmm.
So in the gout drugs like allopurinol, which I mentioned before, they actually targets the same exact enzyme. And finally, fruits contain vitamin C, and vitamin C aids in uric acid excretion. So we talked about past episodes the importance of vitamin C, how it's like anti-inflammatory, it's very anti-carcinogenic.
Hmm.
And there's another thing, it just lowers gout too, or I'm sorry, lowers uric acid as well too. So there's a lot of
Hmm.
benefits to fruit. Just don't overdo it all the time,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
man.
know, and then
Yeah,
stay away from
dude.
high fructose corn syrup stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I'm thinking as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about when I had the juice business. And I was very particular about like how my combinations because I realized that like too much fruit in the juice, first of all, it was sweet,
Mhm.
but then like it was counterproductive to the body.
Sure.
So I would use less fruits, but I would use the sweeter fruit so I can get more veggies into the juice, right? And even
Yeah.
some of the sweeter juices like beets and things like this. But again, it was like it's everything in balance. Brian, since we're talking about like since we're breaking down these components, like especially mentioning that fructose is really one of the leading causes for this increase in the high fructose or high fructose and the uric acid. But can
Yeah.
you give a breakdown of what a purine is?
Yeah, so basically purine, it's basically like what you mentioned before. It's all like from like organ meats. You can get purines in cruciferous vegetables,
Mhm.
purines in alcohol, and it basically breaks it down in your body as almost like a waste product, and that increases your uric acid levels. So you want to kind of stay away from purines as much as you can.
Purine,
I'm not saying never eat a cruciferous vegetable, but if you got high uric acid levels to begin
yeah.
with, just be aware of the how much more purines you're putting in your body. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, man.
Basically, like yeah, again, if we want to get really technical with the purines, it's basically like breakdowns of breakdown of products of your DNA and your RNA that you would find in like, like any kind of kidney meats or small fishes, like you mentioned before. I think you said mackerel and anchovies.
Hmm.
And when your body digests purines, it turns into uric acid. So
Mm,
be
mm.
careful on what you're doing. I'm not saying never eat any organ meat. I like organ meat.
Like
I don't eat
liver,
a lot
you
of
mean
it.
like,
Yeah, like as long as it's coming from an organic source, so I know the liver is somewhat clean. Like
yeah.
I think it's like I travel a lot, so sometimes in like these countries I'm in, they had that, but it's mostly it's fresh. I wouldn't get, I wouldn't eat liver meat from Purdue chicken, you know.
Right, right. And
It's a
I
whole,
also, apologies for cutting off the wisdom for a second. You said something very key when you're going to these different countries. That's like that's the kind of delicacy they have. Key
yeah,
thing to note, like especially for meat eaters in these different countries, man, they're honoring the whole animal and they're making use of the whole animal. It's an indigenous and a
oh yeah,
primal activity because again, they didn't know when they would get meals again. So
yeah,
they'd be able to use the whole animal, the whole carcass, like whether it's for fur, for like, so it wasn't just like, yo, we gotta make a bunch of these cows and we gotta make a
yeah,
bunch of meats. No,
yeah,
it's just like, yo, man, we got this cow that was raised solely for this, like, and we got this for like a year or some shit. But I
yeah.
want to talk to, you gonna say something, B?
No, I'm saying they raise their animals in a humane way.
Yeah.
Like it's like almost like I've been to places where like, they name their animals. Like and that the animal is going to be dinner within the next 6 months.
Yeah, yeah,
But they
man.
take care of them. They love them. They're like a part of their family, you know.
Mm,
But they cherish, they honor it, they pray and everything like that. It's a good quality food. And I've
yeah,
been to a couple of these
dude.
places where like, it was alive this morning and I'm eating like, liver tartare, that same night,
Brother,
which
listen,
is
I tell
pretty
people all
good,
the time, huh?
which is really good, believe it or not.
Brother, I believe it. I believe it. I tell people every time, right? The best chicken I've ever had was when I was the first time I went to Jamaica and I was unfamiliar with a lot of the delicacies like oxtail, curry goat, and all these things. I was like, absolutely, I'm not eating the fucking goat. So I remember they're like, "You want some chicken?" I was like, "Thank God, finally!" And we're on my auntie's farm, on my Uncle Eric's farm. They had a chicken. They got a chicken. Slap, got the chicken, plucked it, man, cooked it up, cleaned it, cooked it up. Brother, that chicken was so fresh and good. I was like,
Yeah,
"What?" They're like, "Yeah, man, that's how we eat it, man. That's how we do,
every
man.
day. And they
Every
come here
day,
and they
bro."
ha- they come here on vacation and they try like a chicken sandwich from somewhere and it's like, what the hell is this? It's
They're
not
like,
even
"What is this
food.
trash? What is this trash?" Yeah,
It's
listen,
not
man,
even
it's
food.
different, bro. It's different, man. That's why, again, like our fuel source, our nourishment sources here in the US, we have to be, I think it's very important to be very cautious. I'm
Mhm.
speaking of myself here because I'm in this process of really like, yeah, I'm like, I got back into my activity, but I'm also really taking a object view of like, wait, what am I consuming? What do I want to consume? What's the impact I want to have? So I've been eating less meals. Like I eat like 1 to 2 meals a day right now. And it's like I'm feeling different. It's very interesting. Even I don't know. Anyway, I'll be afraid of getting too much into that. We'll save that for another podcast. I do want to highlight some of the just to go a little bit deeper into some of the things that foods that cause higher uric acid. Brian mentioned we talked about the high fructose corn syrup, sugary drinks and sweets. A la, what did we just talk about, B? What's the G
Yeah,
word?
buddy.
Okay, yep. And please, people, be aware of this because there's a lot of drinks that are masking themselves out here. It's like, get your energy. And that junk is a bunch of toxins in a can, man. Please be
Yeah,
careful.
like he mentioned something like orange juice, like all natural orange juice was like something like 36 grams of sugar. Like there's
Bruh,
nothing natural about that.
right.
That's just marketing. Like there's no orange is 30, no serving is 36 grams of fructose. It's an overly bombardment of like fructose going on in the body. And it's just
Yep.
like only thing you're doing is again, food is information. You're just signaling to your body like, okay, store fat, raise blood sugar, raise blood pressure. Winter's coming. We're about to starve. There's nothing natural about that. And
Not a
basically,
damn
like, put
thing.
that in perspective too. Like 1 teaspoon of sugar is 7 grams of sugar. 1 teaspoon of sugar, yeah, 7 grams of sugar. So if you're having something that's 35 grams or 36 grams of sugar, it's almost like over 5 teaspoons of sugar going in there, and you're drinking that. And to give you another, 1 teaspoon of sugar can suppress your immune system up to 6 hours. That's powerful to know too. So every 7 grams of sugar is basically a teaspoon. 1 teaspoon of sugar can suppress your immune system up to 6 hours.
Write that down, folks.
Yeah.
Write that down. Okay. Very important to note. That's huge, man. Thank you for that. What? Damn. I
Mm-hmm.
really gotta cut back on my light and sweet coffees, man.
Yeah.
I
Be careful
really
where the
do,
sugar
bro.
is coming from. I mean,
That's
all sugar is
shit,
not the
bro.
same, but be careful where it's coming from.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, damn, man, have me thinking about my choices. All right, some of the other things we talked about the organ meats like liver, game meats. I'm thinking that's like pheasant, things like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Game meat, anything that's more wild,
Okay.
imitate like deer and stuff like that. I mean,
Raccoon,
yeah,
raccoon, huh?
raccoon.
Yeah.
You hunt a raccoon?
Squirrel. Squirrel is
Yeah,
that considered gaming?
yeah.
All right. Certain seafoods. All right. Herring, scallops, mussels, codfish, tuna, trout, haddock. Are these bad? No. Moderation, yes.
Mhm.
Red meats, including beef, lamb, pork, bacon, okay, and turkey. Oh, it's got more items. God damn, man. Oh,
Mhm.
this is, you know what? One of the things as I'm reading this through, oh, gravy and meat sauces, yeast and yeast extract. Okay, a la beer and alcohol. One of the things I thought was so cute and funny, when they were the doctor was talking about the love diet, lower your
Mm.
uric, what was the V?
Oh, I forgot what I remember that.
Damn.
Yeah, I
Oh
remember the
man.
V.
Hold up. You know I gotta look it up now.
Well, you
Thank
look it up, and I'll
you.
talk a little bit about alcohol. So another
Yes.
thing with like one of the other sources that cause uric acid levels behind the consumption of alcohol. So fructose and alcohol metabolism are actually almost identical. And it depends on what kind of alcohol you consume. And believe it or not, gender does play a role in it. So, for example, men who drink wine, there is no real effect on uric acid. And women who drink wine actually have a lower uric acid level compared to women who do not drink wine. Now, again, don't go overboard and start drinking bottles of wine for you women out there because
That was a pass.
it's
You thank you. You
it's
said
in
it, B. Because
consumption.
they're about they were like,
Yeah. So in moderate consumption, for hard liquor, both men and women show higher levels of uric acid.
okay,
But the worst player by far is beer. Why? Because it's loaded with purines. And why does beer have purines in it? Because it's made from yeast and it's highly cellular, meaning from RNA, DNA, waste products, like we talked about before. And what's interesting too was when I was over in Japan, I was at a bar and they had bottles of beer, and on the bottle it would be labeled no purines or low purines. So they understand it. And I had a couple of tastes like regular beer. You just don't get the purines in it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And it actually tasted very good. Yeah.
interesting,
Yeah.
huh,
Yeah, they get it. They have a very healthy lifestyle over there. They know what that stuff does to your body.
bro? That's fucking cool, bro. Um, by the way, I found the love diet. Lower uric values. Lower
Mm.
The Love Diet plan provides organic, ready-to-eat, nutrient-dense meals, low in fructose and purines to help you live a longer, leaner, healthier life. Good for you.
Yeah,
Daily
fructose
dose.
definitely by far is the worst culprit. Fructose
Fructose. Yeah.
by
Damn.
far. Yeah.
It's really interesting, man. Like the sugar and I mean, it's far from surprising me.
Hmm.
Yet the same thing is that like sugar's in everything, Brian.
Yeah. And
It's in
one more
freaking
thing.
everything, bro.
Again, this whole thing's going to be one big circle, and you'll get what I mean in a second. So reason people have cardiovascular issues when your uric acid levels are high is because uric acid directly inhibits nitric oxide functionality. All right. We talked about that over and over again. So nitric oxide allows arteries and blood vessels to relax, and that's important because it allows for us to carry blood to the organs. And again, when blood vessels are constricted, we run the risk of not having enough blood supply to our organs. So again, it plays a whole loop again, right? So
Yeah.
everything is kind of goes back. We talk about nitric oxide being one of the huge components of cardiovascular disease. And here we are with fructose, high levels of uric acid, lowers your nitric oxide, which helps with aids in creating cardiovascular disease and other metabolic syndromes. So
Hey, thank you. I told them in the beginning,
you think they
get your
listen? You think
notepad.
they're ready? I don't
I
know.
don't know. Listen, they gotta listen, man. Only ready, stay ready is to always be ready, man.
That's
Man.
it.
Never need to get ready when you stay ready, man. Hey, look, we're
Mhm.
gonna keep challenging you. And I told you we've covered these things, and this will be far from the last time that you hear us talk about topics that we've covered before. Please remember this. We may even come back to some of these topics. Nitric oxide is extremely important. And when you
Yeah.
look at like, especially in regards to circulation, Brian, like we talked about, and getting the ability to transport blood to these different organs and also take away waste, when
Yeah.
that capacity is reduced, it creates havoc in the body, absolute havoc in the body for a lot of these metabolic syndrome conditions that like can be easily prevented by what we take in our body, man.
Yeah, another
It's
piece of
crazy.
information that'll help you guys out there too is we always go back to metabolic typing, right? Metabolic typing diet. So figure out your
Yes.
metabolic type. We had that
Yeah.
in episode 2. We have the questionnaire in the comments. You're either going to be a protein type, you're going to be a mixed type, or you're going to be a low, a carb type. So there's 3 different types you are, and you can kind of play around with it. And you're never going to be 100% one thing, but you can always kind of fool around with your macros. And people that are high protein type or a protein type, they can do better on purines. They can do better on things that create high uric acid levels.
Mhm.
People that are more of a carb type, like if your genetic disposition basically comes from like a tropical area, usually do better on carbs, not too much protein. Now, if you come from a tropical area, just say like, I don't know, like Bali or whatever, you will not do as well on purines, organ meat, fructose, maybe not too much fructose. I mean, fructose will definitely play a major role, but there is like tropical fruits out there and alcohol you won't do as well on too. So depending on your metabolic type, always get that checked out.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's important, man. We may need to do but as you're talking about this, I think we may need to do some sort of live or conversation again on metabolic type and metabolic syndrome.
Yeah, I would love that.
I'm just like B. We got to connect and figure out what's the best way to roll that out because I think it's very important because when I took my metabolic test, I'm mixed type. So I'm looking at like again, like I'm having my meats and then also having like plant-based and things like this. Because yeah, it's the meats and then yeah, so I can do meats and veggies. Like it's
Yeah,
like
you're mixed.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're mixed. Hmm.
Um so I think it's very important for people to know that, especially in creating what's something that's unique for them, right? Like something that's unique for their diet, for their body type.
Yeah, if
Uh,
anybody out there wants to be a guinea pig, drop your info in a comment and then we'll reach out to you. All right.
Yeah, like so, but you know what, B, let's put that out there though, man.
Yeah.
If we're looking for 2 to 3 people that want to get blood tests done and then like or like they go through the metabolic typing. What do you think, B?
Yeah,
Like
any kind of like you bring post your blood test results on here, whatever you have from your past physical. Let's do some metabolic typing. Any kind of other issues that you might be having that you
yeah.
just especially if you're on a medication, or a goal. I mean, we're not doctors. I would never tell you to get off a medication, but the
Nope.
goal would be to get you off a medication eventually, stuff like that, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, and this is a great jump off to create different habits and patterns.
And the
Great jump
beautiful
off,
thing
man.
about uric acid, if you're paying attention, this is all stuff that you have 110% control over. It's not like, oh, my genetics, I can't help but have a metabolic syndrome. I'm fat, like no, you have 110% control over this.
Yes, bro.
It's very easy to lower your uric acid levels. And when you lower your uric acid levels, you become less susceptible to metabolic syndromes.
So B, like talking about reducing the uric acid levels, like I mean, we talked about some of the basics, like lowering your fructose, lowering your sugar levels, um, maintaining good cardiovascular health. But like, because I know we talk supplements, I know we talk like some eating habits and patterns. What are some natural ways or some things that you would recommend for people? Because we talked about what the uric acid level would be. So say, for example, they're at 5.5 or 6. What are
Mhm.
some things that they could do that could begin reducing that level and people write these down too.
Yeah, I mean, you basically hit the nail on the head. Basically, three things when it comes to nutrition. We talked alcohol, fructose, and purines. Lower that. Get on an exercise program. I would go more on a weight training program, like our strength training program, where you're working out with weights at least 3 times a week, 45 minutes at least. I would go into try anything that's going to control stress levels in your body. During meals, if you're pre-diabetic or you have diabetes and you're on, say, metformin, again, I would never tell you to get off any drug. I don't have that background. Plus, I don't want to get sued. But most people that are taking metformin, a good alternative to it is something called berberine, which I've read a lot of studies on. It basically does the same thing as metformin without the side effects. Some of the side effects, people are like, I don't have side effects of metformin, but it actually lowers your testosterone and amongst other things in your body too. You can
Hmm.
do chromium picolinate. Remember, the last most important
Oh
thing about
yeah.
the supplement is his last name. So chromium picolinate during your meals. Cinnamon helps balance out blood sugar levels. Stevia helps balance out blood sugar levels. If you're going to have a lot of like sugar in that meal, try to put some kind of healthy fat with it. So sugar or carbohydrates, they raise your blood sugar levels. Fats always neutralize and proteins kind of drop them. Again, depending on your metabolic type, this is just an average. So if you're going to have like say ice cream, eat some maybe like a handful of walnuts before you consume the ice cream so you don't spike your blood sugar levels up that much. So little stuff like that you can do. Trying to think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, sleep plays huge role, huge role in blood sugar levels. So if your sleep is off, your body's gonna keep pumping out adrenaline and keep pumping out cortisol to kind of keep you awake, and that'll also raise your blood sugar levels too. So make sure you get adequate amount of sleep at the optimal times, usually between 10 and 6, 10 p.m. and
Yeah.
6 a.m. Just
Okay.
go according to your circadian rhythm. Pretty much. I mean, right off the top of my head, that's what I came up with. And again, check your metabolic type, man. Like I keep beating a dead horse at this, but like people like they go on these diets, it's to me the diet you're just guessing. It took me a long time to kind of figure out what proportion of macronutrients work best for my body. It took a lot of journaling. It took a lot of like just being in my quiet space and have my body signal me, be like, all right, let's take this out. So I know like I'm at a point in my life where I know what macros work best for my body. It's like if you everyone's a Ferrari, but some people put diesel gas in their Ferrari, and they're wondering why they have all these issues. And it basically that's an analogy compared to like your macros in your body. You got
Mhm.
to have the right type of fuel for the right type of car. Yeah.
Bro, this guy, he's like, yeah, just a couple like 50 things off the top of my head that
Well,
you could.
the more you do this, the more you forget. You forget more than you know. So once
Bro,
I get the wheel
listen.
turning, it gets a little momentum. Then you're like, oh yeah, this. I forgot about this. I forgot about this.
Yeah. Listen, man, we're reducing cognitive
Yeah.
decline. Okay.
Yes,
We're
there we
we're
go.
increasing our cognitive recognition and integration. Yes, all that good stuff. Dude, I appreciate listen, this is one of the reasons I really appreciate doing this with you, B, because I'm learning something each episode, right? Each episode, like especially as I'm starting to research more and like look into these things. And I'm fascinated by this because for my own health, I'm like, wow, man, like it just really I'm appreciating because it has me be an observer to my patterns throughout the week. Okay. So I'm looking at especially going into this like enhancing what I started last year, especially like more regular workouts and like my GTX classes, getting back on that stuff. And now like looking at, well, wow, I want to really focus on more strength training now. All right, here's where I come in and I get my walking, but then like my rowing, and then also my steam room. And the key piece is like again, and I was reviewing an old episode. I really never got into supplements, but now I got like my D3, my DK, or my K2. um, magnesium now, and now it's being really really looking at, like, now I'm like looking at what's a multivitamin, right? I do my CMOS and things like this, but
Mhm.
starting to look at those types of components that can start to balance, and then looking at, okay, how is this impacting my blood pressure? Right? Because that to me is the marker, because my blood pressure stays down naturally. That means I'm protecting my body, or I'm giving my body extra juice so it doesn't
Yeah.
have to work as hard. And I say this because people, these things that we're talking about, you can be surviving, right? We talked about before, your levels could be at what people could call normal. The thing is, though, is that if you're failing to really take your health into your own hands, there's most likely something in your body that's working harder than it needs to. And then
Yeah.
it's gonna have an impact, it's gonna have a negative result down the road if we fail to pay attention to some of these things that could be prevented.
Yeah, and we talked about this before. Like, and we know a lot of excellent doctors, like Dr. Perlmutter. We get a lot of information from. We have a lot of mentors in the doctor field, but about 95% of these doctors, these GPs, have no idea about health and wellness or how to
Yeah,
interpret a blood test analysis.
yeah,
Because, like I've had people come to me like they're 40 something percent body fat. They have aches and pains all over the body. They get a blood test done, and I'm like, all right, so what did the doctor say? Like, oh, I'm on the normal range for everything, and they're happy about it. I'm like, dude, have you looked at yourself naked, man? Like, like I don't want
you
to be
happy
like
about
an
that?
asshole about it, but like, come on, man, like use some common sense. Like, man, you got some issues, like, and then I gotta like. I mean, I don't say that to them. I'm like, listen, you're 40 something percent body fat. You think that's okay? You think
Yeah,
that's how much, you're 50 something years old now. You think you're going to be alive with 40% body fat in 25 years? No, you're not.
brother.
You're going to be in and out of hospitals, having surgeries on 15 different medications because they
Yeah,
don't know how to interpret a blood test, because you fit in that normal category. So you need to, like, we talked about this before. Hey, we talk about, like, you know, about this topic, uric acid. It's not a sexy topic,
right.
but if one or two you guys out there come across this video and you be like, okay, now I know how to look at uric acid. If you guys watched our cholesterol, now I know how to look at cholesterol. If you watched our testosterone, now I know what to look for testosterone on a blood test, and all these other things. And you can actually do a better job of interpreting your own health than a doctor,
Yes,
in most cases, a doctor. Because the
yes,
doctor's not there for health. The doctor's there to, like, hey, you got this issue, we're going to give you this. Got this issue, we're going to give you this. It's a very linear, cookie cutter approach, and their job is not to heal you. They're even though they might have the good intentions, thinking that these drugs are healing them, but they're just so programmed by the pharmaceutical companies, and they're just pharmaceutical reps in a white coat. I
yeah,
hate to say it, that goes for about 95% of these professionals out there,
yeah.
quote unquote
Man,
professionals.
B, listen, man, I ride with you, man, and I agree with what you're saying here. And I'm gonna keep telling people again, like, we're given these tools here so you take control of your shit. Okay. Because again, doctor's gonna look at, like, what's okay, you got this condition, I'm gonna give you this, because you just go in and you're like, hey doc, man, I got gout. All right, yo, here's this. You're failing to say,
Mhm.
like, I've been drinking a lot of sugar lately. I've been doing this lately. So now there's a background. Or here's the other kicker, right? By you having this information and you getting more educated about your own health, you're actually helping the doctor get better by asking questions about your shit.
Yep.
Saying, hey, listen, doc, I want to get this to optimal level. That's going to challenge your doctor to figure out what they got to do outside of a medication to get you there.
Yeah.
It's gonna prompt the doctor to ask questions. It's also gonna prompt you, like, some of the things that we're talking about here, like you doing the metabolic test. Like, you know what? I did the metabolic test, so it's like going through all the questions, really thinking about, like, yo, well, you know what? What am I? Like, what is it like when I eat this? What am I? It's like starting to really look at your process and what's going on for your body. Once you're able to do that, now you're taking control of your health, and again, you're helping your doctor help you, because they don't know
Yeah.
this shit, man.
Yeah.
They don't have to, okay? Because
Exactly. Yeah.
they don't have to. They get conditioned to be like, all right, okay, so okay, yeah. Oh, is that it? Okay. We don't go on specific. think about that. Like I get passionate about this because I've been one of those cats. Like, yeah, you know what, doc? Yeah, my blood pressure. What's it? 140? Yeah, I'll hit the weights. I'll hit the gym and shit. But meanwhile, I'm like having Wendy's every fucking, excuse me, yeah, I'm having Wendy's every night, bruh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm drinking a deuce of Heineken every night. You know what I'm saying? That's the stuff that's contributing in this piece. But I'm not telling the doctor that. I'm just going. Well, I wasn't back then. I was just like, yeah, this is what's up.
Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. Just give me that drug, so I feel like I'm doing something.
It's like I'm doing something, man. Listen, and I'm
I
telling you
get
right
it.
now, huh?
I get it, man.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. And listen, it helps your health and it also helps your pocket because right now, because my health is better, now I'm going in to renegotiate my life insurance. Maybe I can get more premium, like less premium, more what's the thing, the end value? The value,
Oh
right?
yeah, the value. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because my
I'm gonna
health
have
is
life
better.
insurance too.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
like my health is better. Then I'm not as much of a risk. Before I was like, this dude could drop dead, man. Up the ante, up that premium, make that mother hoo-ha pay. Is
Yeah.
risk. But B, any last words before we wrap up, man? Like this is a
I
good one,
can't think
bro.
of anything else, man. I can't think of anything else. Just reach out if you guys have any questions. I'd love to chat. Keep subscribing, keep sharing this information. Our goal is to get this message out there to everyone. That's the goal. Get this message out there. Not take responsibility. I mean, you should take responsibility for yourself, but it's to share the knowledge with the rest of the world.
Peace.
What we got going on in this world, our healthcare is the most expensive by far compared to any other country.
Yeah.
But again, we're like in the top 30 or 40 in effectiveness. There's something wrong. There's
Yeah.
something. We gotta share the knowledge that we have.
Yeah, dude. Thank you for that. And brother, thank you for that, V. That was a great thank you for that. To build on what you said, people, I want you to think about something. You're watching this, you're finding value in this. You sharing this, you liking this, you putting a comment into this gets this another step closer to another person that this could save their life. Like, I want you to really think about that. Like, your action, you sharing this video, you having a conversation with your friend, your doctor, it could be saving your life or someone that you love. So I encourage you, like, share, comment, leave some things that you want to see, you want to hear about, question you have. The only dumb question is the one you never ask. Okay. So ask the question, tune in, engage into your health and well-being. And remember, it's more than black or white. Everything is always more than it appears to be. All right.
Yeah.
People, peace. We're out of here. We'll be back next week. Count your ching. And shit, like, share, like, share, and subscribe. That was my defense.
I like that. That's a good outro.
Huh?
That's a good outro. The
It's an
whole Kung Fu
outro, right?
Panda thing. I like that.
Yeah. All right, everybody.
All right.